Rutabaga, rutabaga.
Where do you stand on sparkling water?
I don't. It doesn't do. I mean, is there something in it?
No.
Then no. I'm a booze guy when it comes to. I mean, like Perrier. My bathtub's not filled with Perrier. That's weird. I would say it's too expensive. I don't buy that stuff. I'm not a rich man, Boat.
Well, we can't all drink Perrier nonstop.
Mr. Fancy chairs and fancy water. Super expensive green T-shirt.
That's kind of my. It's kind of my nickname. Fancy chairs and fancy water.
You ready to kick this sucker off? How you feel?
Well, I want to listen to you talk a little bit.
Well, who doesn't? That's why I'm here. All day, all night, non-stop speaking. That's my thing.
Good morning, Chris. Or evening.
I was going to say, what? What country's he in?
Australia.
It's not morning down there.
You know what? Do you know what the Hasifa is sending us?
I don't. Hello.
A Super Nintendo Classic Edition EU edition.
Oh, wow, my.
Yeah.
You wanted one of those real bad, didn't you?
I know. And he's already soft modded it, so it's got all the games and everything.
I see. Well, you crazy nut. That's my kind of guy. Hey, Mr. Styles. Necronom. All
What's
my
up,
favorites.
Paul?
What up, boys? We'll do our best.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty
to
good.
Tease and please.
I'll probably turn myself up a little bit.
Teasing.
What is
Love.
Baby Don't Hurt Me?
That's right.
You know that song never gets played anymore. Have you noticed that? When was the last time you heard that song?
I hear it all the time, but it's usually commercials and stuff.
Yeah. Do they play it on Classic Rock Paradise or Easy Rock Paradise?
I like that song, though.
Yeah,
it's just
me
stupid.
too.
I like stupid.
Well, it just makes me think about, that was the Mango song, right, on SNL?
I hated that guy. Although I never saw his movie, but the song.
Well, you've got something green in your beard. I don't know what that is.
Green?
Yeah.
It's probably candy. I had a sucker.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, because you're turned away from me. It's out. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Alan. How's it going? Good morning, Gary. All right. I think we're ready. As ready as we're going to be.
I'm never physically or mentally ready. Gonna wing this sucker.
You got my...
What are we doing this week, Smurf?
Yeah, Smurf and
Smurf
of Mars. Man, that would have been a great... if we would have done Smurfs and Ninja Golf, Smurf and Turf would have been...
Or we could have done like at California Games, maybe would have worked. Or beach volleyball.
Yeah.
Any of those. But we didn't.
Yeah.
We'll come up with the most clever name.
And then we'll pick the games. All right. So here we go. I mean, you can start whenever you want.
Oh, okay. You're going first tonight, right?
Yeah.
So I'll lead
No,
you.
you're going first.
I'm going first. I'm going first.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. You ready?
Yep.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron. Alongside me, the educator, the illuminator, and the wind generator, John Boat of Car Schaller.
Hey, hey, hey.
Oh, wow, it's getting jiggy up in here. So, Boat, for those that joined us last week, you'll recall the Retro Roulette was spun, and the deal was made for us to play games on the Atari 7800 platform this week.
The Pro system.
Correct. Now, there are probably a few of you out there that have not seen or know very little about the 7800, so we'll go into the background a little bit because it was one of the Atari's lesser-known systems, I would say. The Atari 7800 has a weird story. It was released in around '86 of May of '86, and the PAL version came out in '87. So the European version came out a year later. It's a lot like the ColecoVision from last week. The introductory price on this bad boy, $79. Not too bad.
Not bad at all.
And in today's currency, you're looking at about $180.
So it was easily the least expensive current system of the time.
Atari took a different approach on this one, and they sort of had to, which we'll get into. So this thing sold, and this surprised me actually, because you don't hear much about the 7800. This thing sold 3.5 million units.
Not bad.
Which, if you can recall, Coleco sold somewhere between 2 and 6 million last week. So I'd say this probably outsold the ColecoVision.
Absolutely. I've seen way more Atari 7800s out in the wild than ColecoVisions.
I agree. This thing had about 60 games released for it with a but. And the but being that the good thing about the Atari 7800 is it's pretty much fully compatible with the original Atari 2600 or VCS cartridges, which makes this a valuable little item. You can pick these up pretty cheap. In fact, I looked around, and in the U.S. right now, you can get one for around $60 or a little bit less, a little bit more, depending on where on what kind of deal you get on eBay. And really, the backwards compatibility was the selling point of this item. Like we said, this thing only had around 60 original games made for it. It was not compatible with the 8-bit line, and so, but it was, being that it was compatible with the 2600 line, you had the hundreds and hundreds of games available that were out for that. And so it made this sort of an attractive unit. And one thing that surprised me about this that I didn't realize is that this is widely known as sort of a dud system when it was released, but in actuality, Atari actually made money on this thing. They came out ahead, mostly due to the low cost of manufacturing. Of course, this is Atari we're talking about. Plus, they didn't spend much on advertising and stuff. Of course, you get what you get. One of the things that hampered this system is it was around at the same time that the NES was, and Nintendo, of course, had their infamous corporate baloney they pulled, and they basically wouldn't let people that made games for the Nintendo work for anyone else.
Not only that, if you sold the NES in your store, a lot of times Nintendo would say, well, we want exclusive rights in your store. You may not sell any other game machine other than the Nintendo.
There was a lot of crookery going on in the early 80s and mid-80s. Ironically and hilariously, a game machine that was hampered by Nintendo featured a couple big Nintendo properties on it.
Yeah, and you know, there's one other piece of trivia that we should mention about the Atari. When the Atari was about ready to bring the 7800 to market originally, Nintendo had just approached them and asked them to market and release the NES under Atari's name, and
Yes.
Atari said no.
That's
a Pete Best level mistake right there.
Yeah. An interesting thing about the 7800 was it was originally to be released in 1984, which would have made this a much more attractive system.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that, I've heard various rumors, but the fact of the matter is, the sale of Atari, like there were legal reasons that this couldn't be sold. The hardware in the Atari 7800 was made by an outfit that did arcade boards. In fact, they did Miss Pac-Man was one of their big sellers, and so Atari, when they had this manufactured, they forgot one thing. They never paid these guys. This sounds just like Atari.
Yeah.
And so that was the wrangling. Who's going to pay for this? The new owners or the old owners?
Wow.
And finally, and that's what took so long. That ended up being the true reason that it took so long to get out. So 2 years went by, and hordes of these things sat on the shelf. And then after that, they couldn't make them quick enough. So many things hampered this thing from being a big hit. But it shipped a lot of units, you know, given the limitations of it. And it's a great system to go back and get now. These cartridges generally are, I mean, dirt cheap. And there are only few that are real rare that are more expensive. For the most part, you can go get them just about anywhere, and you can get them for real cheap prices. So with that in mind, we chose from the 60-game library that was available. We chose 2 of the games. And I'll go ahead and lead off this week with my choice. And my choice this week was Asteroids. So you're probably thinking to yourself, oh gosh, Asteroids, well, I know all about that. There's Asteroids for the Atari 7800 is a little bit different, a little more unique than some of the other Asteroids. So to get into Asteroids, we should probably just talk about the game Asteroids itself. So the original game Asteroids was released way back, and it was a vector graphics game, and at the time it ended up being Atari's biggest arcade seller. This game sold millions of units. It actually replaced Space Invaders as the top-selling arcade machine, which of course was huge
Head
at the
honcho,
time,
yeah.
right? And this was put together by Ed Logg and a couple other guys. And what made this game unique was the vector graphics and the momentum of your ship as you moved it. It was a very interesting game. It was a lot of math going on. And of course, those sharp vector graphics that really made it pop. And if you've ever seen this on a vector monitor, it's not like anything you could reproduce at home.
No.
Would you agree?
The way that the phosphorescence of it glows in a way that cannot be duplicated.
Correct. And really, the only system that could pull it off was the Vectrex,
Right.
which
it had that same monitor.
was a home console that was a vector monitor that was built into the console, and it didn't have a version of Asteroids, but it shipped with a very similar game to Asteroids, and it looked real good. So When this moved from the arcade to the home back in the 80s to the original Atari 2600, of course the vectors were gone, and it was replaced by solid colored, various colored asteroids. Right, same basic concept, and admittedly the Atari 2600 port is outstanding. Have you played that one before?
Yeah, it's that was when I think of Asteroids, I still think of the 2600 version. That's the version.
It's
I
the one
grew
you'd
up playing.
would have seen the most as well. The Atari version, one of the things Atari and Space Invaders was like this too. You would have like 1,000 different game variants that you could pull off, and it made that Asteroids very unique. I mean, it wasn't beautiful by any stretch of the imagination, but it worked well. All the concepts from the arcade were there, plus some additional stuff that they put in, and it worked well. And that was sort of the flagship version. And then when you flash forward to, and of course this was ported or ripped off on every machine. A lot of machines had official ports, and a lot of machines had knockoffs.
Was there a Coco Asteroids game?
There was a Coco Asteroids game. It wasn't Asteroids. It was something, I think it was called Microbes or something. I think you were fighting cells in the body, but it was the exact same thing. But if you look at Atari's official consoles, which is what I mainly looked at, you're talking the 5200, which is the successor to the 2600, and the Atari 8-bit computer lines. They both pretty much had the exact same version of Asteroids. It's widely regarded as garbage. It was a horrible version. I've got it, and I don't know if you've ever played the 8-bit version.
You know, it's funny. I probably have, but I have no memory of it. So
yeah, it's a real ugly version.
It doesn't take advantage of the additional hardware.
No, it absolutely doesn't. So Atari was due for a proper version of Asteroids, and when the 7800 came out, this was sort of one of the flagship titles when the system was launched, and it was ready pretty early on. So what makes this different than the arcade or the home versions? Well, for starters, they're one of the few versions that went completely away from trying to simulate the asteroids from the arcade version, because someone somewhere realized that the vectors just don't look that good at home. They look like jagged stair-step lines, and they just didn't look good. There were no post effects like there are now to make stuff look like neon and whatnot. They just look crummy.
Yeah.
So what they did in this, and they did something that the 7800 does very well, which was they put these kind of scanned, rotating meteors, almost like little planetoids at the beginning. They've got a little. They're so well detailed. You can see the various craters on them and the texture of them, and they
rotate.
They all have like a dot on them that's sort of like a crater that you can see it spin, and it's the simulation of the spinning and the shadow effect is top shelf. It is really good. Something else that of course the Atari, the arcade version, this didn't have any music at all. You know, effectively it had like almost like a space for like a heartbeat. This one does that, but one thing it does that I like. And this is not going to win any like music awards because it has music, but it has some interesting sound effects in the background. You'll just hear this kind of chime occasionally or something. It gives you it does a good job of simulating like you're in space without actually doing anything. I always liked the way it sounded. The best part of this one, though, that this is something that was not on any of the early systems, is the fact that not only can you play one player, you can play two player, taking turns. It's also got team play. Team play is real neat. Two people play simultaneously, and you share one score. And as long as somebody doesn't run out of men, you can keep playing. And so it gives you different strategies. It sort of reminds me if you've ever played. There was a game, I'm trying to think of what it was called, where two ships were hooked together. Do you remember that one? It was an arcade vector game, but you have to use strategy for two people but the good thing about it is you can protect each other's flank. You can protect each other from getting hit by the asteroids. I guess I should probably mention that the gameplay in this, you're a little triangular ship, and the screen is filled with little asteroids, and every time you shoot them, they split into several other asteroids, and they get smaller.
Yeah,
and then eventually you try to get rid of all the asteroids.
The thing that makes this game unique for the time was that it had really good physics. So when you're thrusting, you don't just stop. When you stop thrusting, you continue to float. So on the arcade machine, you have buttons that control thrust and rotate. Yeah. With this, you're pushing forward and back, and it's all about controlling your momentum as you wrap around the screen.
Yes, This is one of the games that has wraparound, so no matter what part of the screen you go off on, you'll come back on the other side. One of the things that made this game unique also on the 7800 was it had support for the original 2600 joysticks and the 7800 stick, and they did different things. It would sort of detect which one you had in. So if you're playing this with the 7800 joystick, which has 2 buttons on it, you use one button to shoot, and one button will do your hyperspace. I believe it's hyperspace. If you use the 2600 stick, you'll use up to thrust and back to hyperspace. Right. And so you only need one button, which is most people probably wanted to play this on the original 2600 sticks because, as we've talked about before, the 7800 sticks are not good.
Yeah,
they're pretty crummy, actually.
I should have brought one out. Yeah. I have one in the box.
They're a keypad with a little tiny mushroom head on it. It's not good. So they had that going for it. It also had, aside from 1-player, 2-player, and 2-player team play, it also had 2-player competitive play, which is neat. The difference between team play and competitive play is that in team mode, you share one score. In competitive mode, you both have different scores, plus you can get points for shooting your opponent. In team mode, you can't shoot your opponent. The bullet goes through them.
There's no friendly fire.
So it makes it a lot more fun to play with a buddy. And up to this point, I believe this was the first Asteroids game that offered a 2-player simultaneous option. Now, I know since then, of course, you've gotten Asteroids that went on the the N64 and a Super Nintendo, I think, had one. And I know the Game Boy had one. And so they've given you more robust functions in that. But this was the first one that did it. The ship in this, unlike everything else, and it looks a lot better, including the UFO that pops on the screen. The ship is pretty much exactly the same. They really didn't do much of that, but I guess it's sort of, at that point, it's kind of the iconic little triangle, and so that's that's what you think of when you think of this game, the little triangle bebopping around. Something else that I liked about this game is that, unlike some of the earlier attempts at Asteroids, this one is very smooth. The asteroids break apart in a very beautiful and smooth way, and they do that all the while spinning and rotating, and it gives you an overall better play experience, certainly better than the computers did at the time. They just and a lot of the other ports, and of course a lot of the rip-offs. I looked over a lot of the versions of this game, and the one that came closest to it was actually the Game Boy version.
Really?
Which I've not played. Have you played the Game Boy version of this? The Game Boy version had a different looking ship, a more cool looking ship, but in actuality, that's pretty much the extent of it. It was, aside from that, it was pretty much the same game. The same sort of, it had textured asteroids, and they spun, and they looked cool, and it looks pretty good. Like I said, having not played it, it looked nice, but it looks sort of like this one. Some of the other computers that had versions of Asteroids, most of them tried to simulate that vector effect. And of those, not to toot our own horn, sort of, but the Amiga version is very smooth with the vector effect. It's probably the best one that I saw outside of the newer versions. And of course, Asteroids went on to be on the PlayStation, which looked like it had a really good version. I'd not seen that one before. And the N64 had a version which I've not played. I think it was called Hyper Asteroids, something like that. I've not played that one. You're an N64 guy, aren't you? Don't you ever played that one?
I wonder if it was do you think it was a 3D sort of thing?
It was sort of, yeah, it kind of was, but it kind of was. It was simulated. So it looked okay. It wasn't any great shakes, But overall, this and when I pick up my 7800, this is one of the games I always go to. I know, like I said, Asteroids, we've talked about this a couple weeks ago, where Atari sort of kept mining their classics and just putting them back on the screen. And they did that with the 7800 in spades. You've got pole positions, and you've got Donkey Kongs, and you've got all the stuff that you would think you would have that by this point was, this game was like nearing 10 years old, effectively, when it came out. So, but it's okay. If they're going to try to do something different with it, which is what I think they did, then cheers to them. I thought it was a pretty good game overall. What had you played this before I mentioned it?
I'd played it in passing. My uncle had a 7800 growing up. He was a big Atari guy, and I remember playing this. But I never played it long enough to really separate it in my mind from the 2600 version. And when I fired this back up, I was very impressed with the way that the asteroids looked. I thought overall, the star field in the back was a nice addition. It's no way comparable to the star field in something like Cosmic Arc, but it still looks really, really neat.
It's funny because this being so much newer than Cosmic Arc. Yeah, I mean, this star field's got multicolored stars. They sort of shimmer and stuff. But
they wink in and out. stuff.
You know, it's not like it's amazing or anything. I'll get you that. But of course, really, that doesn't. There wasn't anything like that in the original. So at this point, you're just sort of they're making stuff up anyway.
Right.
So in the arcade, there was a game called Asteroids Deluxe or Deluxe Asteroids.
I think it was Asteroids Deluxe.
Have you ever played that one? It was pretty popular. One thing I remember about it was it had a really cool like backdrop that sat behind the asteroids. It was a neat effect that Atari used to use.
In fact, was that not present in the original game? Was that only on Deluxe?
I don't remember. It's been so long since I played this in the arcade, I just can't remember. I remember it in Deluxe.
Maybe I only played Deluxe in the arcades.
In Deluxe, your ship looks a little bit different. It's got like an extra couple fins out the back, and also you have shields. This carried over into the 2600 version of Asteroids, where there are versions of that one that take away hyperspace and add the shield.
Give you a shield, right?
Now, hyperspace, of course, when you hit the hyperspace, you literally blink off the screen and you just blink somewhere randomly on the screen.
And I think that there's a 1 in 4 or 1 in 8 chance that you'll simultaneously explode upon re-entry with hyperspace.
Well, often you'll just be on or right beside an asteroid and just run you. It's like a panic button. You know, I very rarely use it unless I have to. So the shield was much welcome. It's much more player friendly.
Yeah.
And like I said, the 2600 version had the shield. The 2600 also had a thing where you could basically flip the ship completely backwards in one stroke.
Immediately 180 degree turn.
Those player friendly things are not present in this. I will say if this has a downside, it's the fact that while it has a lot of robust options, it does not have shields. It does not have that flip around function. Which was pretty popular, and so some people are kind of turned off by it simply because that those features aren't there. But you know, it's you know, what are you going to do? So I looked over some reviews for this thing, and most of these are more modern reviews. Some of them, of course, by now are getting kind of old, 10 years old or whatever. It got mostly between 80s and 90s. Above average B, which I think that's a pretty good score. Would I call this the best game on the system? It's close. I mean, it's pretty good. But I would say somewhere in the 90 range, I think is fair. I looked this up on eBay, and these are going very cheaply. It's funny thinking at the 7800, they must just have oodles of games because I mean, you see them. They're not as prevalent as the 2600, but I mean, they stand out. You can see most of the Atari 7800 games. If I can get this out of here, I'll show it. They're silver. They're silver like that. And they have the silver. They're easily recognizable.
Well, that tells you the age of the cartridge. I believe that the Silver Label games are the latest games to be released. They were released in like '91 or something like that, and they're the ones that are the most common because they just made a billion of them. They must have had a really sweet deal with their supplier.
Yeah.
Because those that you see, they do have full color label 7800 games that came out when the system launched, and then there's also a brown label series of games too.
Most of the ones I see are the silver ones. Yeah. I do have a couple that have, like I've got one that's got a black label, and I've got a couple that are colored. But for the most part, they're silver. I did read that the Atari Asteroids for this is one of the few games on the system to have its own custom box art. Most of them just ripped off whatever the 2600 had. They just restuck it back on it, which is kind of lame. What are you going to do? So, but these are easy to find. On eBay, I found these all day long, boxed for, I found one new in box, $12, shipped, free shipping.
Wow.
That's as cheap as it's going to get. Yeah. A new in box shipped for $12.
There are so many new or sealed 7800 games still out there. I mean, I think I paid $5 for my Defender. I bought it from a guy that's new and sealed. If you want to collect sealed games on the cheap, you're not going to do any better than the 7800.
Yeah, and I will say that the box on this is actually pretty attractive. As Atari always not used to have the really nice box art, then they would really spend some money on having it really nicely done. It was like a piece of art.
Yeah.
And so Asteroid sort of fits into the old school version of those. So again, these things are cheap as chips. You can get them easy. One thing I wanted to mention is that on the 7800 there was actually another Asteroids release. This is a homebrew that came out in 2007 called Asteroids Deluxe, and it was, like I said, it was a homebrew. It's available on Atari Age for $30, which would probably make it one of the more expensive cartridges on the 7800. But it is they've put shields back in. They've added vector. They've changed the Asteroids back to the vector base. It looks pretty good. I still think I prefer the colored Asteroids, the vector ones, but it looks pretty good. And I haven't played it. I just saw pictures of it. So that was it looks like a pretty good rendition of this if you really wanted to have vector on your 7800 as close as you can get. It's available, and if you're into that, go over to Atari Age. They had them, like I said, $30 a pop. So anyway, that's Asteroids. Pretty fun game. I've always liked Asteroids. One of the first arcade games I ever saw, by the way.
Oh, cool.
And you can imagine a little young Aaron walks up to a vector graphics screen and says like, "Oh crap! Look at this stuff! I couldn't believe it." So from the classic to the
wacky,
and also from one of the cheaper cartridges, is it the most expensive cartridge in the system?
It's in the top 3 for sure.
Bo, why don't you show us what you've got this week?
All right, my game this week is Ninja Golf. These are 2 words that most would not put together.
No.
Ninja Golf was released in 1990 for the 7800 by Blue Sky Software. Blue Sky Software was a company that I'd never heard of, but they actually released a ton of stuff. They were formed in '88, and they lasted all the way until 2001 when they finally got shut down when Interplay, who was kind of over them, ran into some trouble. But check out some of these games. So they did World Series Baseball, you know, the famous baseball game for the Genesis. That was one of the big system sellers for that system. Vector Man.
Okay, yeah, that's the Genesis game.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good game too.
Joe Montana Football.
That's not so good.
It's not so good, but it is sort of a well-known game. They did probably the other, if you were going to pick another non-traditional arcade port or non-arcade port for the 7800, what's the other one besides Ninja Golf?
Non-arcade port?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind.
I don't know. What do you got?
Scrapyard Dog.
I've never even played that.
Okay, well, that is sort of the 7800's answer to the Mario games.
Oh, I see.
Okay, and of course, the all-time eternal classic, Avoid the Noid. So,
wow, and they were still around to win?
2001, amazingly enough. So this game was ported to nothing. It got no other release. It was an Atari 7800 system exclusive. So when your friends were bragging about playing The Legend of Zelda and Metroid, you could say, oh yeah, well I got Ninja Golf, baby. And, so, and then you just wouldn't let them play it, let them imagine it in their mind. Ninja Golf is an arcade-style action game, shinobi-type style game, mixed with a round of golf. The way the game works is you alternate between sort of the golf part and the action part. So the screen is split into 2 sections. You have the largest section of the screen, which is 2/3 of the screen, is the action zone. And this is where you have your side-scrolling ninja guy going from the left side to the right side, kicking and throwing ninja stars and stuff like that. Then the bottom third of the screen is a golf course. It's your top-down sort of view of a golf course like you see in all kinds of golf games. So what you do is the first thing you do is you hit the golf ball, and this is not a very strategic simulation of the golf swing. This is not like leaderboard golf where you're hitting the button multiple times. Basically, you've got a line that comes out, extends from your ball. You wait until it gets to the right distance, and you hit the button. Okay, so your golfer swings the club. You have no control over the club. There's none of that. And your job then, after you hit the ball, is to run to your ball. And this is where the action comes in. So you run across all kinds of different obstacles that get in your way. There's other ninjas, there's giant frogs, there's snakes. And what's neat about this is that whenever you cross a specific kind of terrain on the golf course, the enemies sort of shift to accommodate that. So if you hit the ball into a bunker, you get this sort of snake charmer music, and you're running through the desert and you're fighting snakes. If you go into a water hazard, I can tell you you're in trouble, because there are killer sharks that will come at you at a high rate of speed and destroy you.
Plus ninjas. Yeah, ninjas are everywhere.
They're everywhere. They don't rest. And there's bonus items you can pick up. There's a thing that'll give you a little bit of invincibility for a little bit. There's health restoration, extra lives. So there's things that'll help you along the way too. Now, what happens when you reach the green? Well, instead of a ninja putting simulation, you get something totally off the wall. The screen transforms into kind of a Space Harrier perspective, where it's an over-the-shoulder view of your ninja. And then there's, again, a very Space Harrier-like enemy. There's this dragon that sort of shimmies its way across the screen. And what you have to do to defeat to beat the hole is just throw throwing stars at the dragon without dying.
It sort of reminded me of what is it, the bonus stage in Shinobi, the arcade game where you guys chucking those stars that.
I'm sure this game is very similar to Shinobi in many ways. Now, is this a good game? This is pretty terrible. This is not a good game. The action sequences are okay. I mean, they're not bad. I didn't have any trouble controlling my guy, but you've got a really limited moveset. You can kick or you can use throwing stars.
Until you run out.
Yeah, until you run out. And that's really all you're doing. The game progresses in difficulty, as you move through the course. So if you can finish this whole course, you're much better than I am, because I couldn't make it all the way to the end, and really I didn't want to. I became kind of bored as I was making my way through this. The golf portion of this game is atrocious. You can tell that this was the most tacked-on thing in the history of all time. The fact that you can't choose your club. You're just basically, you can choose the direction that you hit it, you can choose how hard you hit it, but that's it. The golf should be in quotation marks on the title of this thing. So anyway, that's what I think. What did you think of Ninja Golf?
I like this game, actually. This is the first time I've ever played it, is when you picked it, and which I love that. And I'd heard about it. This is one of the games I'd heard a lot about, like, oh, Ninja Golf, that's the game. And I heard it was really good. And so I had no idea what I was doing, like you said, but I mean, it took less than a second for me to. It took me longer to figure out what the moles were, the groundhogs. Like, what is that?
Right.
Like Boat said, it shows you the little diagram of the course, and there's a little dot. There's a little dot, and then there's another dot that flies away from that dot a certain distance, and and that's where your ball is going to go whenever you hit the joystick. I learned that you need to hit the button ahead of time, because that dot will screw you.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you hit the ball like a foot, you're still going to get attacked by ninjas for the little time it takes you to get there.
Right.
But I don't know if Bo mentions, but when you drive the ball and you're running down the field, there are ninjas that come out, and there are more ninjas depending on how far along you are. There's a red one, and there's a blue one, and then there's sort of like a one that blends into whatever background you're on. I guess he's like the super
invisible
ninja. Right? And so as you're running to where first of all, just the concept of playing golf and being attacked by ninjas as you're going to play the next hole, or the next stroke, is great.
Yeah,
I love the concept.
The concept is fantastic.
And the fact that the ninja is out there. I mean, here's a guy in a full ninja suit, and he's out there on the golf course playing golf. And you can imagine when this guy plays through, you better get out of the way, because he's bringing 400 ninjas, and God knows what else. The problem I have with the game, I mean, no one wanted to like this game more than me. It's right up my alley. I love golf. I love ninjas. And I will say the in-between parts where you're on the fairway, it sort of reminds me of like Kung Fu Master or Karateka, like a faster version of Karateka, where you run. I mean, the graphics are pretty good. The guys look good. I mean, it's a lot, like I said, it's got a lot of Kung Fu Master in it, those parts. And you're throwing stars until you run out of those.
The difference is that the hit detection in Kung Fu Master is so much better.
Well, also these guys just rush you, and there's when they're just the ninjas, you're okay. When you've got sharks, you're boned. When you've got that groundhog thing, that has a little pain in the butt. He's real hard to hit, so you basically have to avoid him. So I ended up running from a lot of the
you just jump over the groundhog.
But they'll come from different sides. They'll come from both sides at once.
It's not a Sodan type game.
So so you'll have to blow away one guy or kick him while another guy's on your tail, and your guy's, he goes at one speed, and so you hope you get to the point where it picks back up to the golf. And who knows what happens to these guys once the golf part starts. I guess they just give up.
Right.
Just walk off or just wait on the sidelines going like this, ready to come pounce when you hit the ball again. The punishment for going into hazards, because any way it goes, if you, like a lot of the courses will have water across the green, right? If your ball goes across a hazard, that's fine, but you're going through that hazard.
You can't go around it.
You
travel in a straight line to your ball.
And so there's some strategy to trying to avoid hazards when you can. Like I didn't go anywhere near water unless I had to, but a lot of the courses have water right in the middle.
Yeah, you can't avoid it.
They built this thing in like the bayou or something. There's just water everywhere. The bit with the dragon at the end when you putt, that was interesting that they got rid of putting entirely. And my guess is they didn't want to work on that part of the game.
Right, because it's usually in golf games it's a whole different system.
So the bit where you fight the dragon looks cool. The dragon's tough to hit. It's kind of fun to throw the stars at him. And when you beat the dragon, he looks real sad as he wanders off the screen. You didn't kill him; he just sort of wanders away. I never got. I only got to like I think at one time I got to the fourth hole. That's as far as I could get, and because at that point it's like crazy time. This game reminds me. This could have easily been on the NES. Like you could have picked this up, thrown some music in the background, and this is an NES game.
Yeah.
And the graphics are, like I said, are pretty favorable to me. I think they look pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just that the execution needs work. You know, and that's the flaw. We didn't mention the bird that dropped the egg on you when you go in.
That's every ninja's worst enemy.
Yeah.
Is the
If
bird.
you go into the rough or something, you've got problems there. Like I said, most stuff's not too bad. It's the water that's where they get you. The water's brutal.
The sharks are really tough.
Even the dragon at the end, he's not that tough.
No.
You know, you can get him. And he's easy to, you're not going to get hurt either, so he's not that bad. But overall, will I play this again? Yes, because I'm stupid. And I like silly things. And I like Kung Fu Master, and just like this reminds me of that. This game is ripe for a fan remake.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Because in 2006, the game received a fan remake.
Oh, look at that. I fed you right there.
Do you remember Newgrounds? Remember that site?
No.
Okay. Well, Newgrounds was an extremely popular website that when Flash games were first becoming popular, this was the home of all those Flash games. And so there is, if you go on Newgrounds and then you have to re-enable Flash because Chrome has taken it off most browsers, but you can do it. You can play the fan remake of Ninja Golf. And it is very faithful to the original. They sort of updated the graphics. They added some music, but at its core, it's still sort of the same game. So, which means it's still not that great.
Yeah.
But it is. I mean, somebody remade it.
You know, we should also mention that the when you go into the rough, not the woods, but just the rough, there's a frog that comes at you. This frog looks awesome. I mean, it moves awesome and it looks great.
It's very well animated.
I mean, whoever worked on this, I don't know if they were under the gun or it was a budget thing, but I mean, you could actually have done something. If you would have strapped a good golf game or even
a mediocre golf game.
If you put something in there that has the same, like, that had any sort of ability to do any golf.
Right.
Like the lowest level golf game. What's the lowest thing we've played that we've ever played? Maybe like the first leader, world-class golf.
Yeah.
You could have put that in here and then spiced up the fight stuff, and then you got something.
That's exactly right. This could have been an all-time classic.
And you put some good music behind it. And like I said, the graphics on this, I mean, as far as a 7800 goes, this has got to be amongst the best looking, non-ball blazer type. I mean, this game is sharp. The everything in it looks nice. It plays. It moves well. There's no slowdown or anything. Though there's a lot of nice little flourishes, like in the when there's an opening thing where it tells you your ninja training's almost complete. The only thing you've got left is the most dangerous trial. 9 rounds of ninja golf. It's presented in a funny way.
Yeah.
There's this kind of a dragon that kind of hovers over the scroll, and his fins and stuff are kind of moving in the wind.
The opening is very impressive.
It is. It is. I would like to see this redone as again. All right. And I mean on a modern console, or maybe even the Atari if you could pull it off. But I would like to see something done like what would be perfect is the Jaguar. It's got enough power to really do it up. Get some special effects in there. Get
it would
some
fit
cool
right
audio
in on the Jaguar.
it. Yes, it absolutely would. And what you could do is get the Kazumi Ninja guys, and then just rip those right out of that. Stick them in here. There's your game right there.
Man.
I think I've written something right there.
Yeah.
So, but I liked it more than you probably because it's not crappy enough to where it turned me off. And it's stupid and silly enough to where I couldn't stop. So I played a lot of this.
I understand.
Believe it or not, I played more of this than Asteroids.
Well,
I'm just embarrassed to say it.
You'll notice that we do not have an actual copy of this cart because this is not a cheap thing at all. The cart only is selling on eBay. One just sold for around $40.
Really? Cheap?
Yeah,
Man.
and you can get a boxed cart. They sell all day for about $100.
And the box on this is pretty awesome because it's got a ninja with a golf bag over his shoulder, and in the golf bag he's got like he's got like a
bandolier, and he's got a bandolier. It looks like with
tees. As much was done on that cover as was in the game. I'm convinced of it. So between $40 and $100 for the box one. The Don't tempt me, Bo, on that one.
Oh,
It's
your
awful.
birthday's coming up.
Oh, yeah, Bo. Take care of business, son.
All right, Aaron. We've reached that time in the show.
Oh, my.
It's time to spin the retro roulette.
It's time to break out the retro roulette.
Well, we got to break it out and know.
Watch the antics.
Oh, something's going on here. Things were happening and things were going too well.
Uh-oh.
Let's see here.
Another edit boat.
What's going on here?
That's just that one camera.
Yeah,
Oh,
we can
thank God.
always put it on the other camera.
Yeah, I could move this. Set it right up front.
Yeah, let me just try and add it back on here real quick. Dun, 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 dun.
Did I ever mention to you that I've never been a fan of USB technology, and this is
Yeah.
one of the reasons?
Well, this is going through that strange box that we have. All of this was not ever meant to do any of this. No, I'm going to have to reset OBS. So.
I liked your game though, bud.
And we're back. All right, so we'll just act like that never happened, and we'll say the wheel camera's down, and so
No, don't say that. We'll just put it right here.
All right,
I'll
we'll
move
put it right
this.
there.
So go ahead and start
Okay.
from there, and I'll just move this off.
All right, Aaron, we're going to take out the retro roulette
All right.
and place it thusly in the place of the 7800. And as you can see, we have a new spot on the wheel. We have the Game Boy, the Nintendo Game Boy, our first portable system, unless you count the Vectrex, which was not really portable.
Have you tried to carry one of those in your pocket? That thing's not portable.
We're going to give this thing a spin and see what we're playing next week.
Good spin, boat.
Thank you.
Here we go. And we have a winner. What is it, boat?
The Nintendo Entertainment System.
My. Okay, Nintendo Entertainment System. Let me consult the envelopes of fun. So this will be our first venture into the Nintendo. Here we go. And now I'll reach in and pick out our picks here. That's yours, Mr. Boat. And I believe it's your week to pick first. So what are you going to have?
All right, I'm going to pick Urban Champion.
Oh, okay. Well, boy, it's a tough choice because I like all these games. I'm going to go with Popeye.
All right.
Popeye next week. So Urban Champion and Popeye, two games where you beat the crap out of stuff. I like it. So anything else to add, Bo?
That's it.
Thanks for joining us this week on another ARG Presents. Please be back next week and we'll give some NES a shot. Until then, adios.
All right.
Isn't Urban Champion horrible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why did you pick an arcade port as an NES
Popeye?
game?
I like Popeye.
Yeah, but it's an arcade port. There's
Well, I
so
didn't
many
think-
other games on the NES that are original.
You know my
to the
choices that
system.
I wrote down?
Yeah, they were all
Gyrus,
arcade ports.
Popeye, and Excite Bike.
Yeah, all arcade
Well,
ports.
they're all good games. I want to
Okay.
pick something. I also, listen, I'm not as familiar with the system as you are. I need to pick something I'm remotely familiar with. Trust me, I'm going down a limb from this. Trust me, that was the safest things I could get because everything else, the stuff I picked for the Amstrad and stuff was just like, the Game Boy. I was like, I'm going to pick Donkey Kong. I was like, nope, that's too easy. I'm going to pick something more crazy.
Let's check in with the chat. Uh-oh, Pixels at Dawn, you just got booted.
What happened?
Nightbot there. I guess I've got some sort of a thing on here that if you're spamming with capital letters, which is a weird. Oh, they might. I don't know. I don't know what.
See, Brutal's down with Popeye. Thank you, dude. Popeye's a universal hero.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you didn't get booted.
What did you do, dude?
I've got this bot on here that controls the chat.
He shouted too loud. Hey, it never stopped me. I've been banned for life from everything.
Yeah. So yeah, don't worry. We'll edit out all that stuff. For some reason, my camera is stopped working. My very expensive camera. So hopefully it'll.
It's not the camera's fault.
Yeah, I just got to reset OBS. It's weird. Like
all right, let me get the Gambletron ready here.
All right. Well, I've also got to shift. This is the air. Oh, okay.
Any of you guys in chat ever played this Ninja Golf?
I realize that you can't see us.
What a crazy game you picked there, dude.
There we go.
Oh, thank you, Folds, for putting some news up. Good for you. Got a couple things on here. We probably should mention ARG. Man, we got some good stuff here from the Huck. Oh, we should mention our box art poll, Boat.
Okay.
So
we'll
we
mention whatever you want to do.
I like it.
Let's see.
The news this week is that I'm great.
Yeah.
Boat, expostulate on how great I am.
Did you notice how you couldn't pronounce your name correctly on the last episode?
I pronounced it correctly. It's my tongue stopped working. What? My name's not Arrow.
Well, I thought it was like the French, Arron, like Matthew Perron.
Oh, that reminds me of how much I hated French class. Arron de très stupide.
Why did you take French?
I had to.
Let's see.
I've learned not to hold it against the French, my inability to speak their incredibly awesome language.
So we got this ready. I think that's all. That's all.
Yeah, we'll do the 2 or 3 items that aren't site related, and then we've got a boatload. Didn't we forget to talk about something last week that I wanted to mention this week?
Man, last week was so long ago.
Man, oh, it wasn't. It was just a week.
This
How
week
long
is
we going
this
now,
week
by
is
the way?
drug on.
Did we even get a half hour out of those?
Yeah, we went 40 minutes.
Did we?
Yeah.
ARG's a no nonsense shot glass of information.
Yeah,
and we just pour it on you and hit you with the cup after we're done.
All right, are we ready to start this thing?
Are you ready to start? I'm out of booze. I'm going to go without.
You want me to fill
No,
you up?
no, I'm fine.
Buttercup?
Oh, how dare you, but no. You can't call me Buttercup. But I don't like that. You got anything to do before the news?
Nope.
You got any proclamations to make?
Nope. All my proclamations are at the end of the show.
Should we talk about that awesome graphics guy that commented on our YouTube video?
Yeah.
Can you bring that up?
Sure.
So we can at least see it?
Yeah.
Because I don't have that on my notes. I believe it was that Folds that hooked us up on that fella. I just think it's cool. And of course, Folds did mention it, and I just completely no-sold it. Because, you know, some of that stuff I just missed, and I was like, oh, crap, look at that.
This is, yeah. Rob Z999.
What's it? It says his real name. Hit view all replies. Keep going right there.
Robin Levy.
Robin Levy, yeah.
Okay, so, yeah.
Yeah, just leave that right there. We'll do that right away.
Okay.
Take us to the houseboat.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about... All right, I know what it is now.
Rock 1.
Let's try again.
That is... what?
I was still thinking about Ninja Golf. That's my downfall.
This is a bad start to the episode. You can't remember the name of the game.
I've got it now. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about Cruise for a Corpse.
Cruise for a Corpse.
But before we do, we got some feedback from one of our most recent episodes, Aaron.
Sure. Okay. What do you got?
None other than Robin Levy commented on our Rough and Tumble episode. And he says, hi, John and Aaron. And Chris, because he sent me the link. I'm the artist, co-designer on Rough and Tumble, and just wanted to say thanks for all the nice words you had to say. I'm glad people still enjoy it almost a quarter century later. P.S. Play Fire and Ice. It's dead good. So thank you. How crazy is that he saw our...
I think it's nice. I think it's awesome, actually. I stumbled upon this, and of course, I should have known about it because someone already told me, but I was just lumbering around like an oaf, and I was like, oh, crap, I can't believe I just saw that. And, of course, I reveled and went to our chat thing and told everybody, like, yeah, we knew about that. I was like, son of a gun. But, yeah, it's awesome. And hey, that's great. I love it when the people that make the game come and have a listen and have a look. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, do you want to roll on to the Amiga news for this week?
That sounds good. Let me roll out the Gambletron here. So, first and foremost here this week, Boat, we're going to talk about and this is a beta, but I thought it was kind of neat. Someone is putting out a new Bomb Jack game. It's a Bomb Jack Amiga remake called Bomb Jack Beer Edition. We can all get behind that, sure. Have you ever played Bomb Jack?
Yes,
arcade?
absolutely.
I knew you have because it's right up your alley.
Yeah, I love Bomb Jack. I also like Mighty Bomb Jack on the NES.
So this is a beta edition of Bomb Jack that's coming out. It looks pretty good, and you can download it, the ADF there, and if you're a big Bomb Jack guy, you look at this boat and tell me what you think.
It looks great. It looks just like the arcade machine.
It looks real good.
Yeah.
And so, a labor of love. And this is one are you surprised that this never had a proper release on the Amiga?
I am surprised.
Yeah.
This is another one of those games that I like. I like single-screen platformers that take you around the world. Pang is like that. I know you've never played Pang.
I have played Pang now, yes.
Okay. And City Connection, which you don't like, but I like. But games that take you, various locales. I really like that.
Yeah, yeah. And so, again, this is in beta, but for beta, hey, it looks okay, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not too bad. So, we'll keep an eye on this, and when it's formally released, we will let you know. But again, you can pretty much grab it right now and have a go at it. Our good and dear friend Chris Folds shared with us a news item. Golden Wing, the Best Amiga Game Award winner at the Capacitor Party 2017, gets a final release.
Ooh.
Now, I have not looked at Golden Wing, so we're going to have a quick look at it now. I like the name. It's a... Ironically, it looks sort of like it's got a little bit of an Asteroids feel to it. The ship has no momentum, though, which would make it a lot easier to drive. This thing turns on the dime like Automan's car, if you're familiar with that show. I like the background, this is some twinkling. Oh, now we get into some actual
factual this is like Super Stardust sort of thing, too.
Yeah, I like the ship, too. It's got a steampunk sort of thing going. I kind of like the explosion. This looks pretty solid, but we may have to have a look at this in the future.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations. It says here that this was coded by a fellow named Fernando Cabrera, and the graphics are by Tony Galavez, and the music by DJ Metune and Estrak.
Ooh,
pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that. I wish I had a cool DJ name.
Well, maybe we'll leave that up to the listeners.
Well, you're a music guy.
What is Aaron's DJ name?
Yeah, help me out. Help me out, everybody. So let's roll seamlessly into the site news.
I'm seamless.
Because, hey, at Amigos, if we can't find the news, we'll just make our own darn news or have the brain trust go to work. And that brain trust has been fully in force this week. Let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend that is Gary, the Huckster. He has put out 3 different videos this week of him tricking out his Amiga 2500. As I mentioned to the Huck, I've never actually physically touched or been near a 2500 my whole life, and I'm sure you haven't if I haven't.
No.
They are neat little machines, and the Huck is going to work. He's adding all kinds of crazy stuff. He puts a Picasso card in. He puts a bridge board in. I used to have a bridge board, which if you're not familiar with the bridge board, it lets you run PC stuff on your Amiga, which actually there was even you could actually use software to do that, but the bridge board added a proper processor and gave you a lot of options that a PC would have. I used to tell my buddies, this is so silly, but everyone when they're younger, they brag about their computer, right? And I'd tell my buddies, like, listen, I'm not buying any computer that I can emulate with a floppy disk. And they'd all be like, oh, there's a
cuts
burn.
like a knife, yeah.
And then they rolled up and said, look, I'm playing X-Wing. I was like, son of a... And that was the end of that. But still, I had a couple weeks of good times there. Let's talk about a crazy talented individual here. The brutal one. Brutal Barracuda. Video churning machine. I love his style. He's put out one that I think he surprised a lot of people with this one, Boat. 40 Amiga isometric games.
Now, if you were going to tell me how many isometric games does the Amiga have, I would not have answered 40.
Absolutely. Now, because that's sort of, when I think of isometric stuff, I think of like the Speccy or the Amstrad, those things.
The 8-bit systems.
I do not think of the Amiga. Now, I know there are some, but I mean, I give the guy credit. And this video is getting a lot of action because I think people are baffled at this number. And of course, it's done in the brilliant way that Brutal Barracuda has been doing this latest round of videos with the countdowns. I just love it. I love it. It's easy to watch. You can skip right over stuff you don't want. There's a timer. It's just great.
It's great.
Kudos to the Barracuda, who is a video genius, I might add, when it comes to this sort of stuff. Let me see if we've got anything else here I want to talk about, Boat. I think that may... Oh, I'll mention it. Me and the Boat put out a video this week that's actually got a surprising amount of attention considering what it was. We had a look at Another World on the 3DO. and this has been, gosh, we filmed this quite a while back, wasn't it, Bo? And it languished. But I hesitated to release this video because I was so bad at the game, just horrible at this game. I was embarrassed how bad I was. And of course, the second I posted, some dude called me out on my foreplay. And I'm telling you, I haven't played that game for a while. Plus, the 3DO version's got a different vibe to it. And also, that morning, I'm sure there was something wrong with my hand. I think I sat on it or something. That's what happened. It wasn't bad play.
No.
And when the camera wasn't on, Boat was playing all his bad games. That was part of it, too. So anyway, if you want to watch me and Boat fumble around like idiots and use stage codes to get to places you can go when you can't get past the first stage, then this is a video
for you.
But I will say, it does demonstrate that and this sort of plays into what we're talking about today in a weird way, but this shows you what the true power of the 3DO was to render a beautiful 2D game. And if it was used correctly, some of the scenes that are just breathtakingly gorgeous, they trump the Amiga in terms of the way they look, and they trump pretty much everything. I mean, I don't think I saw one that looked better than 3DO version. What about you? About saying?
Yeah.
So overall, it's worth checking out just to look at the pretty pictures. Right. One last little item. Well, two things actually. If you haven't been checking out our sister show, ARG Presents, we have out right now. We took a look this week. The Retro Roulette Wheel chose for us to look at ColecoVision games, and we looked at Ladybug and Smurf. So if you have a inkling to get down to funky with Smurf and Ladybug, there you go. We have a lot of fun with that show, and like I said, it gives us an outlet to play some other system games, and so it's something we do on and off. So that one's out right now, and then we just wrapped up another one that'll be coming out this coming Wednesday. Last item, the great Amigos box art poll. We've got a link on the Google Plus, and we'll put this up also on Facebook for you to vote on your favorite box art. And this just kind of sprung out. Do you remember who someone put this up? And you're a real
somebody.
wizard.
Yeah, somebody
One
on
of the brain trust.
Yeah.
Now that I've mentioned it, I feel like a jerk because I can't remember who it was. But kudos to them. And we will give them full credit when I figure out who it is. But they've put up this little poll here, and there's a lot of good choices on here. Plus, you can add your own choices. And we don't really have a reason to do it. We're just kind of, we got to talking about it. It's like someone's like, hey, let's make a poll, and wham, bam, the brain trust stick one up. And so if you feel like voting it.
Next week, vote this week, and next week we'll put up the results here on the show.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think, Boat, that is all I got. You got anything you want to add to the pile here?
No.
That's a lot more than I thought, actually.
So before we dive into Cruise for a Corpse, it's an indefinite corpse, not a definite one.
It's for the corpse.
We should say that this was a choice by Amigos Game Selection Committee member Brutal Barracuda of video editing fame. And so if you have a favorite game that you would like the Amigos to cover, head on over to patreon.com/Amigos podcast, and you can sign up to be an Amigos Game Selection Committee member and get one game a month for us to review.
And we've gotten a lot of members who are selecting some. And this is another game I've heard about for years and never played, so it's always good. Sometimes you need someone to give you the kick in the pants to.
Right.
Or some of the stuff we just don't know about.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of it actually. We just have like, what is that? And so this is one. So you anything else?
No. Let's dive right in.
Let's talk about this unique game, Cruise for a Corpse. All right. Now this is a game genre that we seldom tread in, Boat. It is this is an adventure, sort of a point-and-click adventure game. So this game was released in 1991. It came on 5 big floppy disks, and it was developed.
Which is, I mean, for what this game is and what it looks like is shocking when you consider that Monkey Island came on 12. You know.
Well, we'll get into that. This was developed by Delphine. Ironically, we just mentioned them. They did Another World, Flashback, and then they did a couple other point-and-click games, which were Future World, which I actually have played, and Operation Stealth, and then the James Bond sort of similar game that came out. Of course, this is for one player, and this came out in a bunch of different languages, which is no surprise. It came out in English, German, Italian, and Spanish, and French. Of course, this was developed by a French development team. And it shows. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And if you look at who did this, this was your general guys that work on a lot of these games from Delphine, and they were responsible for a lot of the games we just mentioned. The same basic guys that do a lot of this stuff. So this actually, I was kind of surprised by this. This had ports to the ST and the PC. And I'm not 100% sure which version was first. Did your research discover that at all?
No, when obviously when I was looking at, playthroughs on YouTube, the PC version seemed to be prevalent.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder if this was originally developed for the PC and ported to the ST and the Amiga, or if it was the other way around.
I think Delphine, their other stuff was all, I think it was all Amiga first. Mm-hmm. So this may have been done for the Amiga. I mean, I will say this, it does not look like a port of anything. Now, it doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't look like something that's like, oh, this looks like this porting this let them down. I mean,
right.
It looks like something it runs like you would expect it to work. So, what is Cruise for a Corpse? All right. This game, if you're familiar with the classic murder mystery, and I'm going to go with, say, an Agatha Christie, this is basically a interactive Agatha Christie style murder mystery, like a Poirot.
Yeah.
I'm more of a Arthur Conan Doyle. I'm a big Sherlock Holmes maniac, Jeremy Brett, and if you watch the TV shows. And so this is not the general type of murder mystery that I'm into, but I like pretty much any murder mystery, and so I'm always down to a little mystery. So the theming of it was right for me. So in this game, you assume the role of Raoul. This guy's name. It's gonna be a rough night on the names here. Raoul de Saint-Cyr, who is a French detective. Bam, like Poirot, with a mustache.
Poirot wasn't French.
Where was he from?
He's Belgian.
Belgian. Oh boy, I'm gonna eat it for that, aren't I? Well, you can see I didn't read a lot of those. Again, not my bag. Anyways, he is invited to be on a boat that's owned by a very wealthy guy. And this guy's name, you want to give this a shot?
Point at it for me.
Right there.
I'll tell you what it is.
Nicholas.
That's Karabujan.
Well, I could have done that. So once you get on the boat, you know there's going to be problems because this isn't the happy boat ride game.
No.
And so you once you're on the boat, you're alerted by this guy's manservant that he's been murdered. Mm-hmm. And when you go to check out what's happened, someone sneaks up behind you and bonks you. Body gone. Mm-hmm. You wake up and there's no body, and there's a boat full of suspects.
Right.
And so it's your job.
Somebody on the boat.
Right, because you're at sea, and it's your job to go out and find out what's going on. The game is very beautifully rendered. I will say that it's unusual for a point and click game in that there's depth to it, and they use a system that I'm assuming this is sort of the same kind of thing that they would use to render some of the stuff in flashback, where your detective can walk. There are scenes where he walks right at you and walks away. It's very cinematic.
It's when I was playing this on the stream, they were explaining it to me that he's vector based. Everything else is sprites, but this guy is vector. So as he gets closer, it doesn't get blurry. It just increases his size.
It reminded me of a more refined Alone in the Dark. If you've ever played that
Never played
game.
Alone in the Dark.
They're very well done. And I mean, especially again, the Amiga 3D is not necessarily its bag, so you can tell the guys over definitely knew exactly what they were doing when it comes to programming this game. So, of course, you've got a boat full of people here to investigate, and I mean, there's a ton of these people. And so, what you'll do is you'll move around the boat looking for clues, and the majority of the game, in fact, I'd say 90% of the game is interrogating and questioning these various suspects. And there are tons and tons. I'm not going to give away all the plot points here, but as you get into the story, and I played this game for a good while, and then I watched a complete playthrough after I'd played it for a couple of hours, just so I could get the flavor. The various people in the crew, there's plenty of family members, friends of family members, and there are people that are flawed.
Yeah.
There's a chick that's always drunk named Suzanne. There's the guy that died's wife, she's a real piece of work. Then there's there's their daughter, and there's the guy's manservant, and you're questioning all these guys in this boat. Your guy moves slow as dirt, but thankfully they've got
saving grace.
This game, I will say this right off the bat. The thing I liked most about this game was the interface. The interface in this game is one of the best I've ever seen. One of the things that just drives me nuts on games is having to walk slowly around, especially when you have to cover a great distance. It takes forever to get anywhere.
And that's when I said the saving grace, that's what I was talking about. That they have a system of fast travel, which now every game has fast travel, but it was very uncommon, in these days to have that.
And the funny thing about this game, like we'll take Simon the Sorcerer for example. That game you walk around slowly, but there's a lot of scenery in that game. This game does not have nearly as much scenery. I believe I read that this game only has I can't remember how many unique rooms. It was like 15 or something. You see a lot of the same stuff over and over. Yeah, there are 15 corridor backgrounds and then plus 10 interior rooms, right? So, and for a game like this, that's not a lot. It sounds like a lot, but when you play this thing for like 2 or 3 hours, you see the same little scenes over and over and over. And so it's so helpful when you can click that map up and just kind of beam to where you want to go. Right. It saves a ton of time. Something else that they do that I like is the inventory and usage system in this. Very streamlined. I mean, it's one of the best older ones I think I've ever played. Again, these sorts of games are not my cup of tea generally, but and I'll admit, when I heard this was on the docket, I'm like, oh boy, it's going to be one of these things where I have to say, I mean, this one actually was that's why I played it so much. It was painless to play in a lot of ways because it was very seamless the way you click through stuff. I like that quite a bit.
It's like it's a context-sensitive interaction system with objects. You can only
that sounds complicated.
You can only do. For example, you don't have to guess at the command that you need to use to manipulate an object. It will tell you what you can do. Yeah,
absolutely. The boat you're on is cool looking. It's fun to explore the first time you go through it. It's sort of it's funny, the box contains sort of a background, which I read. It's a paper that comes with the game. And it tells you that the backstory behind this boat is that it was owned by a guy. I think it was a pirate. I think his name was One-Eyed Jack, and
not Saucy Jack.
No, and Nicholas's dad won the boat in a card game. He won it, and he had it docked for years. And finally, Nicholas said, "Let's go ahead and get this thing fixed up, and we'll use it just to screw around with because we're rich, and we'll go out and drive around with our buddies," which is effectively what you're doing. As you go through the boat, occasionally you'll see a servant scrubbing a deck or working in the laundry, something like that, which is cool, or tending bar, something like that, that's kind of neat. When you go up on deck, there's a really awesome water effect that goes on where it looks like the boat's at the sea, and the water's sort of rises and falls.
You see the horizon go up and down.
It's cool. Yeah. It was a real good effect.
Yeah,
I thought.
Yeah.
And often when you're in the boat, you'll see stuff like the door will open. Like there's one room, one of the girls' rooms, I believe it was Daphne. I think it was. When you open the door, there's a little thing on the wall that kind of flutters.
There's little animations, yeah. And I always love stuff like that. I even loved it in Solitaire on Windows 3.1, how the bats would go in the cards.
Oh, God. Come on, boat.
I'm a sucker for that.
So, this game has and again, having not played some of these boats, stop me if this is something that's commonplace because I'd never seen it before. So this game's got an interesting way. You play you play a full day. And so every so often when you do something that's important, a clock will appear and the hand will move up maybe 5 minutes. Sometimes if you do something, I guess, particularly epic, it can move like 15 minutes at one time. And what this is doing is effectively advancing the game, all right? Which at the time I thought, man, what a cool concept. Because, for example, if you checked out everything on the ship, and then finally you did something to advance the game, every person on the ship, not everybody, but a lot of people would change where they're at. Some would not be available at all. Yeah. Some people would pop in that you hadn't talked to for a while. Some would be in different areas, or you could talk to them about different stuff. That's
and
pretty
that's
cool.
and that's what I think the game does to make up for the fact that it has limited locations. Is that even though you've got limited scenery, you've got all of these people in all different places doing all different things.
Right. And so what this means is that, again, you've got until 6:30 to finish this game, to solve the crime or whatever. I guess really, when you get to 6:30, the game's effectively over at that point. So when you go and talk to these people, and the majority of the game, you'll be sitting in front of a guy or a girl, and you'll be reading text. Problem number one, this is pretty much predates where someone's going to have a lot of audio. And it would be awesome if they had a version of this that had all the audio done by actors, but you have to read it all.
We're very far away from that
bums.
in this.
Yeah,
in this.
Well, I mean, really, that would be not that big a deal. I mean, this is another game.
No,
you could probably remake.
there were, but I mean, like that didn't appear in games for like
yeah.
more than 15 years after this.
Well, I don't know about that. At 15 years.
Yeah, think about when was the first fully voiced role-playing game? You don't know, but I do.
What was it?
It was Oblivion. Or no, it wasn't even Oblivion. It was like Skyrim. I mean,
those games were a lot more epic than this. It wouldn't be that.
But I mean, I can't think of any role-playing game that was fully voiced.
What about something like Seventh Guest? That had audio.
That didn't have a lot of. That didn't have trees like this game has.
Well, the difference is this has so much audio. It would be a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, because when I say you're going to be reading, it's novel time.
Yeah,
gang.
that's there's a whole genre of games called visual novels.
Yeah,
and that's really what this is. This is the game that's most closely analogous to this, I think, is the Phoenix Wright games. Have you ever played any of those?
You mean the attorney ones?
Yeah,
I've never played them. I've seen them being played.
This is very similar to a Phoenix Wright game. On a ship.
I'll take your word for that one. So you go around and you interrogate these people. When you come up to them and click on them, you get a series of topics basically, and you could ask them, like, let's say I want to talk about Fabini or Suzanne or any of the number of characters in here, Julio. You can pick their name and say, what about, and it'll give you another subtree. What do you know about Julio? And they'll say, oh, I don't know anything about Julio. Or they'll talk about Julio. Julio's a shifty bum or whatever. And you can. This is the flaw number one with the game. You can go through and ask everyone that's available every question, all right? And you can do that to everyone that's available, and then you'll finally find someone that when you ask them a question, you'll click forward, okay? Then you pretty much kind of have to go back and ask everyone all those questions again.
Right.
Because as evidence appears or as the time changes, their answers may trigger something that wasn't triggered before.
Yeah.
And so
you spend a lot of time backtracking from one character, to get the story to advance, and then just going back and doing it all again.
And it can be frustrating. Like I said, I got a couple hours in, and I know this was the walkthrough I saw solved this game in right around 3 hours. All right, and I think I saw another one that was even quicker. So I mean, you could probably whiz this thing pretty quick. But I was doing what I know about these types of games: is pick up everything, manipulate everything, ask everyone everything, and so, I got irritated when I couldn't advance the clock sometimes. You also have to do stuff with your inventory and pick certain things up. Like I'll tell you one thing in this game. If you like hidden pieces of paper, this is the game for you. They got paper on the ground. They got paper stuck in Bibles. They got paper stuck in music boxes. There's papers everywhere, and you're reading these things over and over and over. But a lot of times you need certain pieces of evidence. There were a couple things I just had to go and get a walkthrough because I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And this isn't the worst game I've seen, like really obscure crap. But it's close. And then what really makes it compounds the difficulty is that some things you need to advance won't appear until you've done something else.
Right.
And they'll be in a place you've already looked at.
And that's the nature of these games. Again, it's just like Phoenix Wright. I kind of break this off. This is different than a game like King's Quest or Leisure Suit Larry or something where there are There are puzzles in this game, but puzzles don't constitute the majority of what you spend your time doing.
That's true. It's not puzzly really at
Right,
all.
right. I mean, there is like, there's a thing like you have to manipulate a music box. You have to turn it and to get a piece of paper to come out with a key. But
and there's one bit where you have to put books in a certain order to open a secret
and
door.
those things are very well animated. I mean, they zoom in and they're very nice close-up drawings of these things. But you know, the majority of this game is, you know, you're an investigative detective. That's what you are.
I will say something we should mention is the little cinematics that occasionally pop up. The majority of this game, you are walking around and you talk to these people. When you go in, they're animated, but they're not, for the most part. I mean, the one thing I like is that the guy's manservant. He's working out, and the scene of him lifting the weights. I had to say, I laughed. Did you see what I'm talking about?
I can't remember
that. He's in his crummy room and he's lifting weights, and before you know, when you come up to a person, they just look like you do on the screen, and then it zooms in, and you get a full-sized, beautifully drawn rendition of them. And they're animated, and they react to you, and their facial expressions change, which is super nice.
This is probably the best game from this time period. Like those close-up animations, I can't think of any game that looked better.
It's awful good.
Yeah.
There's a scene where you look through a porthole, and there's a scene that goes on behind that's real well done. There's some awesome scenes where, like there's one scene where it shows how these two people met. I'm not going to mention it because, you know, it'll give something away, but. And like there are flashbacks, and it animates the flashbacks. It's
very
really
well
cool, you know, the way they do it. And I love that. I mean, art-wise, this is at the top of the food chain, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think there's much that's going to look like, you know, we love the CinemaWare stuff, and it's well done, but this, really, in a lot of ways, just blows away the art on those.
A lot of ways?
Well, I mean, there are
every
some.
way.
Oh, no, there are
There's
some
nothing in any CinemaWare game that looks anywhere good as anything in this game.
You know,
I know you like CinemaWare, but them's the facts.
I think the Three Stooges, the beginning of that, the opening stuff, there's a really
the way they shuffle across the screen like that's not animation.
Listen, I'm not going to fight with you, but everyone knows you're wrong. But this is beautifully done. Now, aside from what we've mentioned about having to trigger stuff, some things are really tough to find. I had a heck of a time. It's one of those, they've got a name for these things. Where you
it's like pixel hunting.
Pixel hunt, that's it. You're on one. Now this game, again, I've played much, much worse. This wasn't like the Zool of these sort of games where you pick up like a million things. But when you need something, you need it. And some stuff's hidden in real, like, part of past where I got, there was stuff like hidden in laundry and people's pockets and stuff. It's like, man, how did you ever?
Yeah, and there is, I mean, just like there's dialogue trees, there's also trees of like item like pick up the coat, look, examine the pocket, put your hand in the pocket, you know.
Even opening a letter, they probably went one or two trees too far.
Yeah,
just,
I
if you
agree.
click on the letter, just read
I think
it.
that's one of the major faults of this game.
I mean, if you're going that far into it, your patience is probably pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, by that point. Again, the boat is well done. One thing I did not like, and this is a shortcoming I think could have been easily remedied, is I thought the music was annoying. It was okay the first time. But there are certain parts of the ship that you go that this kind of 20 speakeasy music kicks up, and it was okay.
I think it's just because you don't like jazz.
No, listen, don't tell me that music didn't get annoying the fifth, sixth, seventh time you heard it.
But you're never really in a place for that long to where.
Well, I'd like a little bit. I'd like more music.
Yeah,
a lot more.
I would appreciate having something playing when you're walking through the ship. Now I realize that since you can fast travel, it might not be completely necessary, but maybe like a jaunty pirate tune or something like that.
Pirate tune? Is that when you take over the ship and start going to? You're like One-Eyed Jack again. I read that there were no action parts, save for one thing, which I never saw and I didn't come across. Was that apparently there's some way you can get into a fist fight? Did you come across that? I didn't see it in the walkthrough that I watched. It didn't happen to me during gameplay, so I don't know how that goes. Now, more positives, because this is your classic insult sandwich, or the game ramps up in interest. And the clock helps, because you know that clock when you're at 4:30 or 5 or 5:30, you're like, man, I know when this is going to end. And at that point, and I'll have to say again, I could never have beat this game in a million. I don't have the brain for it, but I enjoyed at first I was like, man, this is taking forever. This is kind of lame. But when you really watch and get into it, especially if you're playing, I'm sure it's much more fun. The story is actually pretty good.
Yeah,
and
that's what I found.
This boat is full of some of the shiftiest, most conniving scumbags.
Again, it's very much like an Agatha Christie novel in that regard.
And one thing I'll say about the detective here, like, he has no qualms about using your weaknesses against you. There's one bit, there's a chick on the boat that's always liquored up, right? And so you'll go up to a talk to her. She's like, I don't feel like talking. So what does the detective do if you know what you're doing? He rolls into the bar, takes a glass and a bottle, goes out and goes, here you go. And she's like, oh, thank you, man. I'm ready to talk. You know, just gets her liquored up. Also, when she's passed out, and even when she's not, if you're not there, you've got no qualms about just rolling through someone's stuff. Like, go in their room, look through their stuff. No problem. Or search their body or whatever. That said, this guy gets irritating when you're trying to pick something up, but he don't want you to do it. I always hated that in games where they won't. I don't want to do that, or I don't need that. It's like, come on, that looks good. No, I don't want that. It's like, and he was not getting stuff that I thought was really good. You know, did you have that problem? You know what I'm talking about?
You know, that happened to me sort of in the first room. My main problem with this game is that I played like 45 minutes of it the first time I played it. It was on the stream, and I didn't pick up that first piece of paper.
Oh gosh. How did you not get that?
Well, I did everything else but open the desk.
Right.
And so I wandered through the ship. You can go anywhere. You can do whatever you want, and nothing will happen. And I got so frustrated. I wish that something would have popped up and been like, maybe you need to go back to the room. There might be something that you missed. You know, because if you don't trigger that one thing, then the game is just totally closed off to you.
Yeah, yeah. I will say the characters in this are totally unique. I mean, again, they would fit on any of the Murder on the Orient Express or Murder by ABCs, whatever that was called, all that stuff. These guys would fit right in. And there's a couple awesome storylines in it. Some are better than others, you know, background stuff. There's an awesome storyline about well, I don't want to get into it fully, about this girl Agnes and what's happened to her and her heir. I will say the ending, I did not see it coming. I'm not going to give it away because we were told not to give it away. And I wouldn't do it anyway because this is a game, you would ruin the game. But I didn't see the ending coming, and the ending is my kind of ending. It's like a wrestling style ending, you know. Who'da thunk it? The very end scene is your classic investigation scene where you gather everyone that's not dead into the smoking lounge or whatever, and they're all there in a group, and you think you did it, you know. It's awesome, you know. And I will say the very end of the game is the cinematic that they have is more. It looks like they've transitioned to like a Philip Marlowe at the end. They went from the pro to like it just. I mean, not to give it away, but at the very end, it's just you guy sitting at a desk with a drink in his hand, just like looking like just completely destroyed. It's like, and it's like the end. I was like, yeah, that's the perfect way to end this. This guy's like, I went through all that crap. It's like, that was that day. You know, so really, I had mixed feelings about the game. Part of me loved, like I said, I like the clock. I like the concept of the clock anyway. I like the ease of use. I thought there was a little too much dialogue. I mean, I wish they could have eliminated answers to questions you'd already asked that were no longer pertinent. And I know some games do that. Yeah. You know, that would have went a long way in this game.
That's my biggest flaw. My biggest fault with this game is exactly what you said. They should have streamlined the dialogue options to where if something had already happened and you don't need to ask about Jose anymore, they should have just taken that away. Just because you get in the habit, what I would do is I would just go down, check, you know, and at some point I wouldn't even be reading anymore because it was just so much. And
yeah, it was a lot. I know your attention span's even worse than mine.
No, I'm terrible.
Now let me ask you, just a moment, personal application. Who was your favorite character of the bunch?
I don't know.
I'd have to say I liked several of them. I like Susan because she was always drunk, but I love the Reverend, not to give anything away, but the gambling Reverend. He goes into his room and he pulls this box out and it's full of like gambling stuff, and when you question him, he's like, that's none of your business. But like there's a whole sub story about this guy's gambling problems, which is really interesting. I like his like I said, I like his manservant. He's good too. He always entertains me. I like the heir to the fortune that smokes the big cigar.
There's, like you said, I mean, all of these characters are very well developed.
Yeah. And there's a Latino guy who's a race car driver. Is that Hector or Julio? I can't remember, but he's fun to talk to. And all you hear about is everyone talking about how rich this guy is, but he's just a doofus. He's a race car driving doofus. But I like they kind of try to generate his accent, in the game, and they do. It's pretty good. Like, I almost picture this guy's voice in my head. I guess that's one of the things about not having audio. You can sort of make their own voices up. But overall, gosh, I'm trying to think. I guess I would say I recommend it for a patient neophyte in the genre.
Fans of the genre will that's a classic.
Well, I mean,
video
you have
game
to be.
review
No,
thing.
I'm taking someone that's new, like me. Someone that's patient. Well, that's not me, but new to this sort of game, and has time to kill, and the patience to sit through and go. Because I mean, you really almost can't lose if you were patient enough.
Here's what I recommend. I recommend this game if you own a boxed copy of the game and you get all the ephemera that comes with it and you sort of immerse yourself in the story. If you fire this up on an emulator, I mean, you can play it and you can look up the text files of all the documentation. But man, I just think that a game like this, you really want to immerse yourself in the story. You want to become part of the story to get the most out of it.
It does have a good save feature. You can save it. You don't have to. There's no checkpoints or anything, because God, that would suck. Something weird that I came across as I was watching the end of this game. One of the guys was talking about someone who's super wealthy, and he said, and keep in mind this game was from like the 20s, and he goes, he basically said something to the effect of, he's richer than Donald Trump.
Yep.
So I can only assume they were translating this. They're like, who's a rich American? And that's the one that they came up with, and the era didn't matter. I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, that is kind of an anachronism.
Later, I was reading stuff on this, and I found someone else that had mentioned that same thing. So I guess I'm not the first person to come across that. There's some stuff in it that I didn't understand, and so probably after some story points I didn't quite get. So I'm going to have to talk to somebody that has solved this after the game to get some clarification on it, like their grenades in the cans in the secret door. Like I said, I'm not giving anything away, but I didn't understand what was going on there. I don't know what that means.
And there might be red herrings too.
It could be, and there were some in here. So this game was reviewed quite a bit, as you can imagine. It got pretty good scores, actually. It got Amiga actually gave it 93%. Amiga Format gave it 90. Amiga Power 87. CU Amiga gave it 90s, and the One gave it an 88. Then reprised that to gave it a 92, and then went down to an 88. So those are real good scores for the game. So it was a much appreciated game when it came out, and I'm guessing it sold pretty well, and I'll explain that when I go to the eBay. This game is one of the most easy to find games I think I've seen that we've done on here. I mean, there were tons of copies of it, and they were all over the world. In the U.S., you can get a boxed copy. All these are boxed. $27 or best offer, boxed with all the trimmings. Not bad.
No.
Right? If you're in Canada, you can get one for $21 or best offer. Italy, I saw them in Italy ranging from $24 to $72. UK, somewhere between 11 and $25. In Germany, there were $60. And after that, I just stopped counting. I'm like, these things are everywhere. So this game, somebody bought the crap out of it, because I mean, there were plenty of them out there to get. So if this is one you want to add to your collection, and again, like Boat said, it's got some little goodies that came with it. The box art's cute. I like that. And it's a handsome box, and it's a good addition if this is your bag. If this ain't your bag, you probably aren't going to get into it that much. And it's funny this game hasn't aged in a positive way, because I read a lot of internet reviews of it, and the internet reviews often did not like it. I mean, they were very negative about it. I read those before I actually started playing the game, and I was like, man, this must be the worst game ever, because they were killing it. But the point of contention was that the clock time thing, where it's jarring and once you understand what's happening. But I mean, again, you've got to go ask these questions again and again and again and again and again. But I mean, if you're okay with that, or if you understand what the concept is, to me, it made it easier, because when that clock skipped up one, okay, you just did something good. And
that's in a lot of these games, you don't have that visual indication that time has moved on and it's time to revisit somebody.
That's right. Again, this is not necessarily my forte, and as someone who doesn't play a lot of these, I like it when a game holds my hand and says, "Good job, Aaron.
Yeah.
You made the clock go."
Right.
I'm like, "Thank you, game. You know, now you go try again. Go talk to the bartender one more time, or go talk to Suzanne again. She might have some new stuff for you." It made it more fun for me, and I felt like, unlike a lot of these games, I felt like I was getting somewhere. And
right.
It was important to me. So overall, in the scheme of things, I enjoyed it, and I will admit, I enjoyed it much, much more than I thought it would. Of course, I do like the subject matter, so that doesn't hurt. And it's sad. I'd like to have seen this sort of interface, because I played Future Wars, and this interface is way better. This is way better than what they had. Again, you know more about this than me. Is this sort of thing a more standard thing that you'd see today? Are there games that did this sort of thing now? That are...
From what I've seen, like the point-and-click adventure games are kind of undergoing a renaissance. And the sort of context-sensitive menu options in this are not as popular as the SCUM engine, you know, where you have the list of commands down there at the bottom of the screen. I think that's more of a nostalgia thing than anything else.
Yeah, I think I like this more than those.
But this was definitely a trend. The later King's Quest games, they actually simplified it even more, where you wouldn't even have words on the screen. You would right-click, and it would go from like an eye, and that would be like an examine, or, you know, like a hand, that would be take, or something like that. So that was definitely the trend towards the end of the, you know, the point-and-click genre.
I will say one thing else I failed to mention that I enjoyed in this game is that when you're playing it, you have an uncluttered, full screen of art. It's quite, I think it helps you get into it. One thing about that SCUM engine is that you've got all those gauges and stuff at the bottom of the screen. You got the box or whatever, and I liked it nice and empty. It was actually, I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
And not having to look at all that extra stuff, it made it look pretty.
You know, we talk about all the Amiga games with the giant HUDs. This is the anti-giant HUD.
I mean, this game, art-wise, it's the top of the heap. It's way up there for what you're getting. I mean, I really was impressed. And then the cutscenes, like a lot of the cutscenes, they didn't have to add those. They didn't have to do it. They could have just described it. But it made you feel like, hey, I'm watching a movie, or I'm experiencing something very interesting here. That's like a film, and I appreciated that too. So overall, I give it high marks. For someone like myself, I thought I was real surprised how much I enjoyed it, actually.
Me too. All right, Aaron, as we leave Cruise for a Corpse, it is time to announce the winner of the Patreon song contest.
Okay.
All right, so we had several people enter the contest. And I chose the winner the normal way, whoever included the most cash. And I'm pleased to announce that our winner for last week's song was Matthew Perron.
All right.
Congratulations, Matthew. You said that your favorite episode was John Madden Football because that was the first time that you appeared in the Patreon song.
Oh, gosh.
So you get a special Amigos postcard with our signatures on it congratulating you. And so Matthew, congratulations. We'll send that out in the mail. And I want to thank all of the entries. Let's say Edvin Helen, Jason Warrens, Jonas Rulo, Chris Folds, Alan Kebab, and Darren Coles for entering.
Did they all get it right, Bo?
Everybody got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's time, Aaron, for this week's song.
All right. So this is another contest?
This is a new
an ongoing
contest.
Gimmick, isn't it?
So
okay.
Matthew, you are no longer eligible to win, but anybody else, including people that have already entered, you can enter again. And
he's getting the music out.
Yeah,
he's booting up the synthesizer.
It's getting real.
He's firing up Cakewalk. He's
Cakewalk, man.
Yeah, that's how old I am.
All right.
I don't know what that is. He's got a gimmick. He's got a gimmick.
It's a gimmick. That's what
it's
called.
Put on his guitar.
Yep. All right. Here we go. Dan Rossleaf, Kalan, Alan Kebab, Donald Tyler, Level Lord, John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky the Rocher, Creepy Dead Boy, Vicky CTC, the Slow Norris, Stefan Sargon Mortensen, Edvin Helen, Lindo 75, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Folds, Streamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Graham Bebke, Brent Dowdy, Lane Denson. O'Brien's retro and vintage. Gary Huckster, Brian Jones, Paul Harrington. Duncan Stiles, Anthony Jarvis, Tapes from the Crib, Josh Nan, Will Williams, Jonas Rouleau. Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda. Darren Coles, Kim Tommy, Humberstad. THT and Eric Nelson. Jason Warnes, Pixels at Dawn, Kilbjorn Barman. Adam Bradley.
I predict no one will get that.
I predict there will be many people that get that.
I have no idea what that was.
You don't really listen to the kind of music that is popular with our crew.
You should show the people. You should see these notes. He's got a split into verses. I've never seen you. You took more notes on that than you did the show. You've written music here, and you've got little. What do the little letters mean? Is that the key you're going to, or something?
Do you understand how the guitar works?
Listen, just answer the question. Don't call me out on my guitar knowledge.
So the little these things right here, F, A minor. Those
I couldn't read them that far.
Those
away.
are chords.
Oh, okay. Why did I even ask?
I'm.
Well, and you had to give me the business. You had to give me the business. That's never happened, Bode.
What's never happened?
You're being speechless.
No, I was speechless when you were giving me the Anton LaVey business last week. I had no idea who that was.
Did you see the picture I put up for you? So that's that. Now you know.
Now I know. All right, and now you know about
the
Cruise
rest
for a Corpse.
of the story. Good day.
So next week we are going to do Assassin.
Ooh, sounds scary.
Yeah. So remember, folks, you can always check us out on what is.
Remember, folks, if you need an assassin, call 1-800-ASSASSIN.
You can always watch us live on YouTube every Friday night for us at 5:30 Eastern Time. We record ARG Presents and then Amigos back to back, just like the fine folks like Eric Sundstrom, Edvin Helen, Pishbot, Necro Nom, Pixels at Dawn, Brutal Barracuda, Dan Ross, and everybody else that's hanging out in the chat with us. So everybody's correcting, or everybody's telling you what that gimmick is actually called.
Oh,
chat,
man.
so.
Everyone in the chat's smarter than me.
Wow.
I'll give them credit. That's not saying much, guys.
But until then, guys, have a great week. Make sure you keep playing the Amiga. We'll see you next time. Adios. All right. That's it. That's the show.
That's it. I had no idea what you were singing. And I'm pretty well read when it comes to music.
I know. Yeah, I know.
It's got to be some kind of weird college crap, isn't it?
What do you call music that...
anything that was on 120 minutes is weird college music.
Right. And it's only called college music because you happen to be in
that
college
show?
at the same time. No, it was never on 120 minutes.
So it's much newer than that. Then.
No, it's... I'm not going to give it away.
You tell me off air.
Okay, I'll tell you off air
because I'll never get to guess it. Bye, Gary.
Completely forgot about the special edition. Oh, Assassin Special Edition.
Oh, we're going to play the special edition.
All right.
Hey, Brutal, good choice, by the way.
Yeah.
I was better than a lot better than I thought it'd be. Is Brute still in the house?
I'm sure he's still around.
Gary, I liked your videos, man. The new, I just watched the new one today. It was good. Have you watched any of Gary's 2500?
I watched part 1. I have not made it past part 1 of the.
He put in the. I liked. He put in the Bridgeport. He put in a Picasso. I just like seeing inside that thing, and I just watching this. I like watching the sucker nose around the computer, and it pleases me.
So, do you have anything to talk about for the post show?
Oh boy, what have we done? What have I done this week, Boat?
I don't want to talk about anything serious, so don't hit me.
Don't worry, I haven't done anything serious this week. Boy, I'm trying to think if I've done anything of any import or played much of anything. I played, like I said, this game. One thing about a game like the Cruise for a Corpse is it's I had to sink a lot of time into it to get a good feel for it. So I played it quite a bit. I played between Cruise for a Corpse, Ninja Baseball, Batman. Between Cruise for a Corpse, Ninja Golf, and that Smurf game.
You're still playing the Smurf game?
The Smurf Blue Day, whatever, that remix. Mm-hmm. I played a lot of that this week, too. It's so simple to sit down and play it. I played quite a bit of that. So And then me and Luke have played just a boatload of Fire Pro Wrestling. He's obsessed with that game. He plays it all the time.
I see, because on the Discord, you can see what people are playing.
Yeah.
And so I always see you
really
fired up.
So you guys know when we're playing that?
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. I didn't even know. Yeah. What have you been up to this week? You had a lot of time to kill. What have you been doing?
Well, I did a 2-hour stream of my new favorite Super Nintendo game, Do Re Mi Fantasy.
Yeah, I saw that pop up. What is that?
So it's sort of like a Mario World type game, side-scrolling platformer, but it's really charming. The graphics are really cool. There's a bunch of neat effects, and there's like different power-ups that you don't have in Mario, and there's like an inventory system and stuff. It's a little bit, I don't want to say it's deeper than Mario World, because Mario World's pretty deep, but it's a different sort of take on the genre. And it's really cutesy, like if you like a cutesy platformer, sort of like, I don't know, I can't think of any cutesy platformers like Mario.
Rainbow Islands?
Rainbow Islands is
Liquid Kids?
Like Liquid Kids, yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, if you like that sort of thing, this is a game that was never released in America, but it has an English patch. Somebody's translated it, and so I played that for a good amount of time and with the guys on the chat. But I'm looking forward to playing. I've never played Urban Champion in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't you have it? Do you
I
own
have
it?
I had the box before I sold the cart, but I've still got the box.
You should just go out and get those carts and stick them back in there.
You know how much money that would cost me?
They're not that much. The carts aren't that expensive, most of them.
Okay, and then I put them back in the box, and how would that benefit my life?
Just for completion.
That's not how I choose to spend my money, for completion.
Benefit your life. How does these pictures benefit your life?
I look at them.
They're just static pictures. Well, I mean, you look at that too, and you know there's a cartridge in it.
That makes total sense.
You can set the cartridge beside the box. How about that? It's art.
I can't argue with your logic.
Listen, the boat challenge is over, so just go out and buy whatever you want.
Did you see the chair I bought upstairs?
Did that count during the boat challenge? I thought that was for media and stuff. I thought that's what it was. You couldn't buy.
I could have bought 8,000 cartridges for what I paid for that chair.
Oh man. Well, yeah. You tell us about your new chair.
So I got a chair. I got a new Lazy Boy recliner. I moved the recliner that was in the living room to the study, and so we needed to have something else in there. So I sat in a million chairs. I went to Ashley, went to Lazy Boy, and I bought one, and it was really expensive. But
when you're making big money, Bo, you can afford these sorts of lavish extravagances.
Speaking of lavish extravagances, we got a new chair for Big A.
That was nice of you.
Yeah.
That was nice of you. Really, like I said, I'll set a folding chair on the floor. I don't care.
You don't need that.
I'm comfy. I'm good to go any way it goes.
What's your what's new in the? Oh, okay. So I'm actually going to cut the pre-show. It's going to start now because
what, this other stuff wasn't good enough?
No.
Why? The chair?
The chair is stupid. But you need to give us the report on the midget wrestling at the shady local bar.
Yeah, but that was 2 weeks ago. Didn't I already talk about that?
No, you have not. You've not mentioned it.
I did not go into that. How did I?
I know.
How did that happen?
We just didn't talk about it.
That was the week we did all depressing stuff, wasn't
it?
Midget wrestling. Well, allow me to tell you a tale.
All right.
So this midget wrestling was held started at 9 p.m. at the dirtiest, crummiest lounge you ever saw, the Coal Miners Lounge of Milton, West Virginia. Which is there's a million of them just like it all over the place.
So
a beer joint.
Describe the exterior of the Coal Miners Lounge.
You know the beer joints that have like the plastic sign that hangs in the front that like says RC or something on the bottom, and at the top it'll just say the name in like plain letters. It's one of those.
And what is the interior made out of?
Well, the interior is not.
No, I'm sorry, the exterior. It's all cinder blocks. Yeah, it's just cinder block exterior.
Building.
Yeah.
And then they do have a fenced-in area in the back, I guess, for smokers. And although you can smoke inside,
doesn't matter.
But it's like their patio, right? Mm-hmm. So you go into this place, and I will say, when we got there, the place was packed. There was nowhere to park.
For the midget wrestling, or were they just
I don't
packed?
Know maybe they always did on Saturday night. It was packed. And so we had to park as far away from this. But I mean, parking, it's just picture like a 2-lane road. Picture like a bunch of gravel in front of it, a big empty spot, and then you just park anywhere you want. Yeah. It's there's no line, it's just crazy time. Mm-hmm. So we parked, we walked in, and Teresa's eyes were as big as pie pans as we walked to the door, got our hand stamps, and a place was just jumping. It was just like...
Now, what was the male to female ratio at this place?
It was about even.
About even?
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't just like a billion biker dudes and scary guys.
No, man. There were lots of chicks. There were some good-looking women in there, and then there were some other ones. But we got our hand stamped with this old broad at the door and went in, and they had you've got the main bar area over here and some seating. Then you've got like a couple pool tables, and then off to the right, where they'd have like an extension to the building, is where you've got the ring, and your chairs around the ring. And you probably had, I'd say they maybe had 40 chairs around. No, that's way too many. Maybe 25 chairs around the ring.
And this is when you say around the ring, I mean you're sitting pretty close, right?
You're pretty much right up on the ring, almost. And this was a smaller ring. It was midget size, but it was still, for them, it actually made the action better. And so we went in, sat down, and we waited for Matt and Chad, the straightest, whitest boys in town, to come rolling in. And they both looked like they were stunned when they walked in this place. And I warned them. I warned everybody. I said, listen, here's where you're going.
Right. I'm surprised that Matt and Chad would even
I
set
could
foot
not
in a
even
place like
believe
that.
it.
Yeah.
And so we sat down for a while, and we waited and watched the antics. And people were just drinking and doing stuff you normally would do in a little seedy bar, and playing pool, and everybody was festive. And so eventually this guy came out. I don't know what his ethnicity was. It was sort of I don't know. I think he was sort of a black guy, but I'm not sure. I don't know exactly. But he was a real charismatic as heck. But clearly not. He was the only that guy in this whole joint. This is a sea of white people. There was no ethnic people at all. So he rolled in, and he had his DJ stuff. He's like, "Oh, who's ready for some wrestling?" The whole shtick, you know. And of course, everybody by this time, they're all having a good old time, liquored up, people smoking and just having a good old time. And the ringside's all packed. You know, $25 a head, by the way, for ringside seats.
They made some money.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but they did okay.
$25 a head, yeah.
And then everyone else had to pay, I think, $15. If we had, by the way, if you don't pay $25, you get no seat.
But you had seats.
Yeah,
right?
we didn't have a choice. They'd sold out the 15, so just basically they were at capacity. So we rolled in, and they brought the midgets out to start off the show. And I will refer to them as midgets because that's how they refer to themselves at this show. Midget wrestlers are referred to as midgets. That's they still, not little people or whatever. You had a guy from Detroit. You had there was one black midget. There was one guy that was from Detroit. There was a guy from Kansas City who was he was like a little Chucky. His gimmick was he was supposed to look like Chucky, but he didn't look like Chucky. And they had a guy who was just a midget that was just beat down, kind of old. He was the guy from Kansas City. He was the ref. Then they had the main attraction what was her name? It was the girl midget, Shortcake. I can't remember her first name.
Strawberry?
No, it wasn't Strawberry. But anyway, she came out, and all the wrestlers came out, and he looked at them. They waved. They went in the ring, and the DJ said, "Listen," he goes, "this is a bar. You have to be 21 or older to be in here." He goes, "And these midgets are going to do some lewd, unhealthy, bar-level stuff. Like, if you see a midget coming, he might take your drink.
Oh.
He might badmouth you. He goes, if you don't want that midget taking your drink, just hold it up like this so they can't reach it." That's what he said. And I thought, man, these midgets, they sound like kind of mean, you know. So then the first couple guys came out, and they had a pretty good match, including top rope superplexes. And I was like, holy crap, we're in for a night of action. Well, that was it. Action was over. And then they said, listen, they said, we want 4 adventurous women to come up in the ring to compete for a prize.
Uh-oh. So Teresa immediately raised her hand and made it
right
to the ring.
But, and this where it's sort of getting a little blue here.
Oh, okay.
So they had a midget, the old beat down midget was laid in the middle of the ring. And they put the girls in the 4 corners and they said, okay, each one of you girls is going to have a chance to come over and do whatever you want to this midget.
Uh-oh.
You know, you can do whatever you want. You can take your clothes off. You can get lewd and nude, do whatever you want to this midget. And I thought to myself, and the girls were good-looking girls. They didn't get any duds. But this one chick looked like petrified. Like she didn't know what she'd gotten into.
She made the wrong choice, yeah.
And she was scared to death in the corner. She was number 2. So number 1 came out and did her dance. And I mean, it was fairly lewd. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. So they're like, okay, let's have chick number 2. And chick number 2 walked in the middle of the ring, and she looked around, and she got real eyed. She was like, oh. And all of a sudden, she just goes, whoop, rips her shirt off, and it was a swerve.
Wow.
This chick was good to go. And the crowd blew up. Biggest pop of the night. This chick got nasty on this midget, man. And I thought, we have a winner. And she ended up winning the contest. I mean, everyone was buying what she was selling. Clearly, she'd done this before. So that was the midget.
Do you think she was a plant?
No, she was a local. I guarantee that because I saw her boyfriend, and he was liquored up to the nines. He thought it was hilarious. So, and I think the prize was like a T-shirt or something. But by this point, you could have said, here's your thumbtack.
Right.
So then they had a couple more matches, and the girl also wrestled the boys because there's only one girl. Clearly, the girl was the #1 draw. And so the next intermission came, and the DJ said, listen, he said, here's what we're going to do. He goes, I want everyone that it wants to sit on the ring apron and hold out either $5 or $20. I think it was, something like that. He goes, and the girl midgets come around and give everybody basically like a lap dance.
Wow.
And she came out in her lap dance attire. Her gimmick is she's got a big old booty, a midget with a big booty. And I told you it's going to get blue. And I'm cleaning this up significantly.
I'm sure, yeah.
And so this whole ring was packed with suckers.
Wow.
I mean, men and women, probably about equal. There were tons of women that wanted a lap dance because the way they built this was sort of a novelty.
Yeah.
Like, listen, where often are you going to have a lap dance from a girl midget? It's never going to happen in your whole life, which is the same reason I was there.
Right.
When am I going to see live midget wrestling? Never. So I'll go to a seedy little dump to see it. So these guys packed this thing, and that girl went around and gave each and every one of them to varying degrees. And if you gave her more money you gave her, the more nasty she got.
That's how it works.
But I mean, I'm talking, she must have give 30 or 35 of these dances.
Wow.
I mean, I thought to myself, this chick's going to be, her swivel's going to be inhibited after this is over. And as one side would clear out, more suckers would come up. I mean, they loved this chick. They loved her. So she finished up. They had another little intermission, and then finally they brought the midgets out for a big grudge match at the end, a big tag team match for all the midgets. They had their match. Like I said, after the first match, all the matches were garbage. And at the end, actually right after she did the couch dance, they brought the owner of the joint in, this old man. They go, get up in the ring, like Slim, or this old guy gets up in there. They're like, lay down there in the ring, and then the shortcake went out and gave him like a particularly nasty, like, dance while he was laying on the ground. This old man was just eating it up. He was loving it, which is a good way to get rebooked. Because they talked about coming back out in the summer and do like an outdoor show, which would probably be preferable. And so, again, then they came back. They did the tag team match at the end. And the guy's like, listen, he goes, we don't have to be in Alabama until Tuesday. So after the match is like, you don't have to worry if you want pictures and stuff. Like, we're going to be around here all night drinking. And by the time he said that, I looked over, and 2 of the midgets were already completely hammered at this table with some of these hosses, and they weren't buying any of their drinks. People were just buying people were buying these dudes drinks left and right. Again, West Virginia, big racist haven. Let me tell you something. The DJ and the black midget were getting loaded up. Everybody was loving on them. They were high-fiving them. They were, again, this is just like Mothman. Maybe that's a little overstated. These guys are getting along without any problem. Of course, everybody was drunk. That might be part of it. But we edged out when that portion of the show went on, and we'd had enough. But it was a spectacle, boat.
What did Matt and Chad think of all this?
I didn't talk to them. Me and Tree, of course, I would never got one drink because you had to fight your way to the bar. But it was a good one. The chick set me up, and I got Tree a little something. They didn't drink. They didn't do nothing. And of course, I wanted to. I would have a lot more fun if I could have just gotten plastered.
Oh yeah.
But I mean,
makes everything better.
I had to drive. Yeah. It's the downfall of my gig. But they were like doe-eyed and appalled, I think, for the most part. And I kept wondering, like, why are these guys here? But they wanted to come. I didn't even invite them. They're like, we're gonna go to that wrestling. I was like, what? What the heck? What? Why? I knew you wouldn't come to something like this, and I didn't invite anybody.
Right.
Even hoes wouldn't come to this. There's no one I know. Like Larry would have went, but that's it.
How about Dale?
Yeah, he'd probably went too. But we've been in these dumps. I've been to the dumps with them.
Right.
So it's not the wrestling so much. You have to be okay with going in a beer joint.
Yeah.
And because trouble can happen in a beer joint.
And for the people that are watching right now and listening, it's not like going to a pub in England or like a bar in Europe or something. Like, these are like, people don't go to like drinking only establishments in this state. They just don't exist except in their shadiest form, like concrete block buildings.
I mean, to be fair to these people, all right, let's say you work near Milton or you live out there, right, which, you get off work, you roll down to one of these joints, and then you go in there with all your buddies, to the bar, and you just load up. It's as unfancy as it gets. You shoot some pool. They probably don't have that many. They may have a ton of fights in there, but I'm guessing they probably don't.
Probably not. Yeah.
You know, now I've been to much worse joints out in 60. There's a place out that's right as 60 and as a 34 split. It's out. You can't even see it from the road. I used to deliver pizza out there, and that place was insane. Insane. You know.
What about Southern Pride Lounge?
I've been in there tons of times. The bartender was gay in there. That's how not scary that place was. He wasn't worried at all. And I have been there for years, but. You know, I've been to a lot of, and I work in jails and prisons. I mean, it takes a lot to blow me away. You know, and this place, I walked in, I was like, man, this looks a lot better than I expected. It was got, like, for example, when we went to those death matches in Charleston, the setup here was much better and less scary than that was. That was like in the worst part of Charleston with the worst people you could ever assemble in one spot because they were out there to see a death match. Now, I was amongst them, so I don't know what that says about me. But
I need to record something real quick for the show that I forgot to say about the contest. So let's pretend like we're going to jump right back into the show for just a second. Man,
you're going to heavily edit this thing. You're going to really go to work on it.
I do it every week.
What'd you forget?
I forgot.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Okay. All right. So if you know the name of that song, then send it along with your physical address and your favorite Amigos episode to John at amigospodcast.com, and you will win this special customized Amigos postcard. All right, back to the post show.
That's your midget story.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
I could tell you the real off-color version, but I don't think that'd make air. I know you have sensitive ears.
I'm sure everything about that seemed to be a little off-color.
Oh, man.
But
yeah, it was something, y'all.
They're looking it up on Street View, the Coal Miners Lounge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The midgets are out there, too. They're called...
they're not on Street View.
No, but they've got a web page and a Facebook group. They're called... Midgets with Attitude, I think is what they're called, MWA.
MWA.
Midgets with Attitude. If you look on, now they've got a rotating staff, but this, like I said, this particular time out, we got the Chucky, Shortcake, and the dude from Kansas City, the dude from Detroit. So I can't remember their names, their working names.
Did you ever, when you were, with Hose and your buddies in high school, did you ever think of, like, if you had your own wrestling federation, what would the initials be?
I never did.
You didn't have, like, fake wrestling?
Because I actually got to do, at least I got to book one show and promote it, which was fun. But, I mean, no one went to it. But, and also they changed the card.
Well, let's talk about that.
Oh, it wasn't in the
I didn't know you were a promoter. You're like Billy Corgan.
Well, I mean, when I say promote, I mean we plastered the town and stuff like that. That's effectively what you do, and it did some web stuff for it. But me and Rich were loosely involved.
So this was in Lexington, right?
Yeah, the IWA Mid-South, and which is a garbage promotion that ran out of Lexington. They're not in there anymore. They kind of got booted, but they used to run. They ran a couple of shows at a place called the Continental Inn, which no longer exists. It got plowed. So you can see how it just win after win. But we got to name a show, and we did the promos for it. And like I said, I booked the show, but then they just basically took my booking and scrubbed almost all of it.
Now, when you say that you did the promos, were you cutting video?
No, no. This is a low-level indie show. We just did we did a lot of papering. We did a lot of putting up flyers.
Is it like the same level as what is that called, Carmageddon or? What's that one you made me watch the tape and you're like, this is awesome, but the tape was really bad?
I don't know.
What's the big indie promotion circuit? Name a big
Chikara?
Yeah, Chikara.
Oh, this is way smaller.
It wasn't like Chikara? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this is the ring was all duct taped. It was a disaster.
Wow.
And we drew nobody. I literally brought over half the crowd with me because I got everybody from Lexmark to go and stuff. We had a good time. The show was great, but it didn't draw, and then Ian came out and had to kick out a couple guys because they were being jerks. This guy named Tarek the Great. He had this move called the Tarek Driver, where he would get on the top rope and he'd jump off with a guy holding him like he was going to body slam him, and he would drive his head into the ground as he split his legs and sit on his butt. It was an awesome move, but he ended up getting it to reverse or something. Anyway, he mauled himself in this ring.
Oh my gosh.
The ring was duct taped. It was just a mess of a ring. And he was mauled. They had to stop the match.
Oh, man.
And these guys were like, get him out of there. He's not hurt. And the guy that owned the IWA, and still does, Ian Rotten, is an outspoken gentleman who has little time for jerk fans, and he came. And of course, he wants to fight them. He's going to boot. He wants them out of there. Boot them this. And of course, we only had less than 40 fans. So I mean, and he would go on these long speeches about how the guys were doing this for us, and it wasn't about the money, which is true. But we know that.
How does the IWA compare to Milton? The Milton.
It was bigger than Milton, but just
because Milton's pretty good. Rusty Shanks, all those guys.
No, it's not. It's not good. No, we don't go there anymore, and it's like right beside the house.
Yeah, you don't go anymore.
We haven't been. We stopped, and every time we went back, we swore we'd never go again. Over and over.
That last time I went,
there were a couple times we went just for the concessions. And that was the only reason.
They do have good cheese fries.
Not anymore. They raise their prices. You never can find where to sit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't go there anymore. So we haven't done much indie. We haven't went to ASW for a while. The midget thing's the first thing we went to this year, and we probably won't go to one. I don't know when we're going to go to another one. To be honest with you, there's nothing coming up that I want to go see. So we'll find out. Yeah. But the midget thing, it tied us over. I don't need to go see those guys again. I've seen them now. It was something. It was something special. That's for sure.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and close out the Amigos overtime. So thanks for tuning in, as always, hanging out with us. A film clapper? Oh, yeah. I've got a... Yeah.
Can you imagine that? What do you need that for?
Just because.
We need a director, writer, producer, probably new people to play us.
Host, just like Wayne's World 2, you know?
Yeah. If you had to hire somebody, who would you pick to play you?
Probably Leguizamo.
Really? I think I would go with a... well, Chris Farley's dead. I would go with maybe...
Belushi.
Who was the fat jerk kid in Superbad? He would probably do it. Although I think he lost a bunch of weight.
Was that a Jonas guy?
Yeah, that's him. He would do a good job. Or possibly, I'm trying to think, who's the stupidest, baldest, fat guy that you know who? You ever watch that Last Man on Earth? No, there's a bald guy in that. There's a tubby bald guy with a beard. He could probably do the job, so call him up. Yeah, that'd be it. Norman the Lunatic. He could also do it.
What about, you know who would be great is the guy that played, who was Seinfeld's nemesis?
Newman?
Newman.
Yeah, but he lost a bunch of weight. He's no longer a big fat guy.
Oh, that's no good.
I do love Newman.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I feel like
I can live with that. Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know who John Leguizamo is. That was the first name that popped in my head.
How bad is your career when... Listen, we need you to come down to a guy's basement.
And talk about the Amiga.
The what?
All right, guys. See you later. Adios.
Adios. Adios. Bye, bye, bye.